What comes to mind when you hear that phrasing, stop missing your life? And why was that so kind of motivating for you?
The first thing that comes to mind is how much I don't like the title of my book, actually. So I'm grateful that that speaks to you, and it does for a lot of people. There's something confronting about the title, as you're already acknowledging. People can sense how much of their life is spent unconscious on autopilot, and it is the reason we went with that title. But the title I wanted to name my book was Permission to Be Human, because I felt like that was actually the journey to coming back into your life. And as most authors know, there's a bit of a wrestle between like the creative and the publishing company. And we wanted something that kind of stood out to people. Um, but it's a phrase that I would never say to someone. If I was inviting someone back into their life, I wouldn't say, stop missing your life. I might say something more like, what's it like to be you right now? Which is the line that I open the book with, really meeting people very specifically where they're at this point in time, which is going to be different for everyone. As you already alluded to, the process of being out of touch with your life, like actually missing your life, to coming into awareness, uh, is not easy. I mean, for a lot of people, there's a grief process, and a lot of people have good reason to want to stay unconscious. It's painful to wake up to the things that have been motivating you to stay unconscious. And it's painful to wake up like 10, 20, 30 years later and realize, like, wow, much of how I've been living is based on protective patterns that were trying to get me safety, connection, and love. So that phrase, like missing your life, I think there's like two chapters to it. At least there were for me. The first chapter is just recognizing that there's a being who can be aware of their life, not being identified with your thoughts and your emotions. I still remember the first time in college where that came up for me. I was, uh, well, I didn't get into this work for any noble or spiritual reasons. uh, I was trying to impress a girl. I had a hippie girlfriend at college. She was in a meditation. I wanted her to think I was cool. And that's what like prompted me to start meditating.
I love it.
Yeah, no happy ending on that one. She broke up with me a couple weeks later. But
Not even one happy ending.
the real happy ending was that it was the pain of that breakup that actually like troubled me into trying to figure out how to get out of the torment of my mind, of my thoughts and my emotions. And I was seeing that the meditation, which I did not know what I was doing at the time, right? I was 20, 21 years old. I would just lie in my dorm room bed, put my hands on my belly, focus on my breath, go inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And I was just trying to be as present as possible. But in a short period of doing that, I quickly became aware that there was this place that could watch the thoughts that were judging me, the emotions that felt overwhelming, the pain that was gripping me. And that was the first stage of seeing like, oh, there's a being here that is bigger. I wouldn't have even used the word being at the time. I was just like, there's something going on here. And nobody ever taught me this before. And the more I zoom out and identify with that place of observation, the less torment I feel with the experience. Right. So that's like mindfulness 101. But the next stage of really stepping into your life is once you connect to the resonance of freedom of awareness, that space of like what some people might call true self. What does it mean for that to express itself in all facets of your life? That to me is the real work. A lot of people can have awakening experiences, but it quickly gets caught in the gunk of their conditioning. And so they like wake up here and then they're their 14-year-old self over here. And this is why you can also have great meditation teachers who like you read their stuff, like Osho or Trungpa Rinpoche. You're just like, this is penetrating. And then you find out there's like abuse or there's alcoholism. It's just like, how does that happen? Um, this is because like the awakened state has to express itself through our physical embodiment. And I have never met a single human being that doesn't have some complication with this. And so if we view spirituality as the recognition that there is a place within us that is not bound to the same laws of impermanence and unsatisfactoriness as our mind-body experience, then we can view embodied spirituality as creating enough trust between that space and the facets of our personality structure such that awakening can express itself in all moments of our life. That's a lifelong journey. I don't know anyone who does that perfectly.
Absolutely. It's a messy, windy road, and the synthesizing and integration of both paths isn't really talked about as much as I think I would like to. And I think it's getting more and more light, but I think we're really familiar with the spiritual insight of waking up beyond the illusion of your thoughts and your emotions, and um, those meditative practices that can really support in waking up beyond the identification with those processes internally. And then, of course, the Western psychotherapeutic approach of parts work and healing your traumatic wounds and daddy issues, and really familiar with that too. And I love to see the coming together of how they both support one another and are incomplete in and of themselves. And so we can continue to dive into that. I think a theme throughout this conversation is I want to pull from some quotes of yours, either from your post online or book, and we can expand on it because I think, they're articulated really well.
Thank you.
One aspect of internally feeling like we're like not present for our life is this continual sort of orientation that our ideal life is somewhere in the future, that is AKA not now. And so this quote, I think, hits on that really well. The belief that there is some future moment more worth our presence than the one we're in right now is why we miss our lives. And so if you want to kind of share about your journey awakening to that realization, because it's such a pervasive and persistent one, I think, throughout all culture.
Yeah. The belief that there is a future moment more worth our presence than the one we're in right now is why we miss our lives. That has been a piece of writing that has both resonated with a lot of people and has also been hard to understand for a lot of people, or activating for a lot of people. Because some people hear it and they hear it as the belief that a future moment is going to be better is the reason we miss our lives, which is not what this is saying. The recognition that a future moment is going to be better is wisdom. It's the recognition of impermanence, that whatever suffering is here will shift and give way to something else. But the belief that there is a future moment more worth our presence that we can finally show up to and like really let ourselves sink into, that is the trap we get into, where we develop this push-pull relationship to our experience, where we're grasping at the things that we want, pushing away the things that we don't want. And it's an inherently non-spiritual relationship to our experience, to our life, because it is layered with the presupposition that there is only gold in something that feels good or something that matches the blueprint of our personality structure. And my experience with like the greatest transformations that I've ever had, I mean, almost all of them have been during the most painful experiences, the experiences where I'm most confused, where I'm most tormented, and where I don't want to be in that moment. And I have like used my distraction and suppression strategies to avoid that thing and try to buoy myself above it. That never works. I always have to come back to whatever that thing is that was asking for attention. And when I do, when I allow myself to soften into it, when I like almost make it a devotion, just like I trust that there is a reason you are here, and I am going to soften the protective layers that don't want to touch this as long as I feel ready, right? There's wisdom sometimes to protection and saying not right now, but knowing that we come back to it. It's like I'm here to feel this. When that gives way, life moves through again. And then you are on like the pulse of your life, the natural flow of your life. Waiting for some future moment that fits the blueprint of what you want is a very surefire way to really disconnect from the aliveness of your life. And it's a mistrust in why things are showing up the way they're showing up and what opportunity there is for you when you actually let yourself touch it.